Hello, happy Monday morning.
Welcome to Light Talks.
Afternoon for those on the East Coast and evening for those in the other parts of the world.
Yep.
um,
So
yeah, today.
today we're going to talk about, we're going to delve in deeper into quantum healing energy and quantum healing medicine and talk a little bit more about working with the five bodies in relation to your purpose.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Our, both of our work is really about supporting people in manifesting their vision, their purpose, their
Hmm.
calling. So I'm excited about going in deeper in terms of how we are within our the different bodies um, in in manifesting that.
Yeah, and I think one thing, just hearing you say that, one thing that kind of like sticks out to me is, you know, with some of my clients and some of the folks I work with, a lot of it has to do with um, getting through like the fog of the physical body, getting through the fog of the vital body, getting through the fog of the mental body. Um, and getting them to the point where they can more readily access the supermental body and the bliss
Mhm.
body. So that's one thing that I just want to say is like, folks tend to the folks that I tend to work with, there's this kind of clearing out of energy that happens initially. Um, and the whole process is transformative. It's not one's better, than the other, but the whole process is transformative.
Yeah, definitely. Um, it's like the physical body, while it's the one that's when we looked at the percentages and stuff, well, it's the one that's the least significant.
Hmm.
It's actually the one that's in our lives most significant, most of our lives most significant because we're so occupied with it. And that for that transformation to happen, we almost need to um, be able to kind of tap through that physical body to move away from it. And for so many of us, it's like we can be so stuck in it. So, how do we move out of it while not necessarily seeing any changes immediately within the physical? You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like, does
I
that
do, yeah,
make sense
because
what I'm saying?
yeah, 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 yeah. No, that totally makes sense. It's like uh uh, I don't know. It's like wanting your PhD without having, graduated from high school or something like that. It's that kind of a like disjointedness. Um and so I think with the physical body, it, it's in some ways it's easiest for people to relate to or to recognize or to
Mhm.
begin to pay attention to, and then that allows you to kind of like to whatever awareness comes up for you, then that allows you to go in, to these. I, I, I want to use the word deeper, but I feel like deeper is not the right way, to describe it, because I like when I think of deeper as like going down,
Mhm.
like going down deeper. And I feel like in some ways it's the opposite. It's like going like up.
Yeah.
So it's an odd term, but I think folks, understand what I'm trying to say. It's like going further in,
Mhm.
going further into awareness, going further into sensitivity, because really, and we've talked about this here, um, is the last place that something manifests is in the physical body.
Right.
It goes through all those other layers before it actually manifests in the physical body. And so by the time it gets to your physical body and it's like, a broken foot or, a scratch or, a cut or something like that, or even something that you're experiencing with your muscles or anything like that, it's gone through all of those other bodies in order to
Yes.
manifest within the physical.
Yes, it has. Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to living our purpose, um, our body will guide us in that towards it, right? Like the role
Mhm.
of the body, it's very connected um, with our higher power. It's very connected with our archetypes. It's very connected with everything within us that wants to move us forward, right? We want to
Mhm.
achieve something in this world. We have contracts. So our body will direct it, right? So if we're
Mhm.
not following through, our body will get sick. It will be in pain. It will um, it will nag at us to
Mhm.
move. And it's difficult sometimes because sometimes we get so ill that we can't, it feels like we can't move, right?
Mhm.
So if we've waited too long, um, then we might find ourselves in a place where, how the hell do you expect me to live out this vision if I can't physically take care of myself? Right?
Mhm.
So that's where like those core archetypes really come in, like the prostitute and the saboteur and the victim. They come in because they're going to have to find faith. They're going to be able, like, need to choose. They're going to have to get out of that cycle of I can't.
Mhm.
And it's going to require like so much willpower, like
Mhm.
so much willpower, and coming out of the paradigm of being stuck in the physical reality and in the physical discomfort. And that physical discomfort could be an actual illness. It could be financially. It could be that financially it seems like there's no way to move forward. There's no
Mhm.
way for me to do, you know, launch an ad campaign
Mhm.
without, where is that money going to come from, right? Like, so in when we're how do we work with, let's talk about how we work with each of those bodies to move out of that
Okay.
place of whether it's fear or discomfort or just an unknown, like not knowing how, um really like feeling stuck.
Mhm.
How do we move out? How do we move towards our purpose?
Well, I feel like I mean, it's definitely like individualized to the person in terms of
Sure.
what that journey looks like.
Yep.
Uh,
Always.
but first and foremost, I I do think that it has to do with um, and like you said, it's like it's not just the physical body. It could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be like within relationships, it could be job related.
Yeah.
It's when we're
Anything on the
talking.
physical plane,
Right,
right? So,
that's
like, the
that's
way
what I
we
wanted to
interact
clear it
with
up.
others.
Yeah.
If I have, if I want to open a store, but I have a small child that I have to take care of, or I have a sick mother or grandmother or somebody that needs my attention full time, how am I going to open the store and operate it, right? Like,
Mhm.
or you're working a 9 to 5 job and you actually really want to be writing a book and there's no time in the day to do so. It's like the physical, how does the physical
Right.
realm
Right.
stop us from moving forward in our purpose? And what do we do about it through each, if we look at each body, right?
Okay,
So
wonderful. All right, I'm glad that we expanded the physical outside of the body and into the physical plane because I just want folks to be aware of that and know that. So I think like for me, when I begin working with someone, it's like what's the totality of like where they're at this particular point in time. And some of that, I've definitely encountered some clients who aren't even in a place where they're acknowledging certain things that are blockages for them or that
Mhm.
are preventing,
Sure.
and so there's the process of discovery and of expanding awareness. But first and foremost, it comes with where we're at any given point in time. Um, and being able to acknowledge where we're at, what we're feeling, what we're feeling connected to, what we're not feeling connected to, what feels good to us, what doesn't feel good to
Mhm.
us, where we kind of might feel blocked, where we might feel trapped, where we're not doing the things that we want to be doing on a daily basis. Uh, and I think you know, there's this disconnect between the way that our culture, our society, our world is structured, and some of that is oppositional to certain folks' kind of natural flow, so to speak,
Yes,
the way
definitely.
that they naturally flow throughout a day, throughout a week, throughout a month, throughout a season. And so part of that journey is discovering, okay, what about all this this world, this culture, this society that I'm a part of, what am I in alignment with? What am I congruent with? What am I not congruent with?
Mhm.
And so that going on that path of discovery, what generally tends to happen for me is that then you start to get those golden nuggets of clarity, like, oh, this is what I want to be doing. Oh, this is how I want to be doing it. I know for myself on my journey, which started over a decade ago when I was focusing and doing this work, was really about like, okay, what do I want my days to feel like?
Mhm.
What do I want? Like, how do I want to spend the time within my days?
Yeah.
And what do I want that to feel like?
Yeah.
And that was a big, kind of like lighthouse for me as I was adding things into my days and weeks, as I was extracting things from my days and weeks, and going through that process. Um,
That
so,
is such a great question. Like, that is so strong for people to meditate on, what do I want my days to feel like? It's so clear, and it takes you right in there, right? To just, what do I want my days to feel like?
mhm.
It's so everything, right?
Yeah,
Because
well, it's like,
once
what do you want to spend your time doing,
yeah,
right? What do you want to spend your
yeah,
time doing? And it's like, and to me, that it's connected to all of those layers for me
yes,
personally.
yes,
Um, and it's like, do you want to eat 3 meals a day? Do you want to eat 2 meals a day? What do those meals look like? Are you eating at restaurant? Like, it gets into some of those kinds of like minutia questions.
uh-huh.
And not to say that like it has to be the same way every single week or every single
Not at
day.
all.
It's just a matter of you recognizing what works for you and what doesn't.
Yes, 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 yes. And those little details actually give us a lot of information in terms of how to proceed, right? So, like,
Mhm.
you start visualizing your day and what it feels like and what it looks like, then something as like simple, or for other people like me, not so simple, as like, oh, I need to get a cleaning service. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it starts giving you these little, like, light bulbs of, like, this is what my day looks like. Oh, I don't actually have time for X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Oh, I need to start ordering my groceries. And so that's So then if we take it, so once you've kind of gathered that information about yourself and your desires, and in our vision statement workshop, we do go into that. So if you want to work on that, that's a free workshop. You're invited to. We have dates in September where we will work through what do you want your days to feel like.
Mhm.
And so once you have that clarity, then it's about how do you then take that in, right? How do you move towards that, right? So
Right.
if the physical plane is not allowing it, we have to remember that the physical plane is only 4% of how we get rolling, right? So then you move into the vital body and you
Mhm.
check in with the vital body and what within me energetically is blocking
Yes.
that from happening,
Yep.
right? Is it my solar plexus is kind of, has like dust bunnies in it, and I'm not allowing myself to shine my light. So my boss isn't seeing me and I haven't been able to get promoted and, you
Right.
know, get a raise. Is it that my second chakra is a little bit cracked and leaking? And so all the money that's coming in is actually being drained out and I have no idea where it's going.
Right. Or
Right.
is it fear in your heart chakra that's like built this fortress that's like impenetrable at this point? And how do you go about like deconstructing that fortress and letting go of that fear and that process? So
Hmm.
it's so interesting, like that transition between, okay, it's easy for us to kind of look at it within the physical plane, and then it's like, how do we support it within the vital body, within the mental body, the super mental body, and so on. And so like you're saying, it's like when you go to the vital body, it's like that's where you can feel where the energy is flowing and where the energy is
Yeah.
blocked.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, so that is such a huge next step, right? So once you've got clear on what it is that you want, what your vision is, what your calling is, what your purpose is, then it's what is within me that is stopping that and stopping myself from living that and
Mhm.
stopping the, like, what walls am I putting up to make the universe not work for me?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, because and that's the thing. It's like the universal energy has a flow, right? And it flows through us, just
Hmm.
like feelings. It's like you have a feeling, you feel the feeling. If you resist it, then it's going to stay stuck within you. But if you feel the feeling and allow that feeling to move through you, then then you're being supported by the universal flow. The way that I think of it is I think of it as like the like it's a big puzzle, right? Like, and the universe is always working towards balance.
Hmm.
And so it's like all these puzzle pieces are all kind of like coming in from all different angles, trying to like find their place and find their balance. And then we have all these people in various places of awareness and alignment and
Yeah.
fear and blocking, and so then certain puzzle pieces can't kind of fall into place because they're waiting for this fear or this feeling to move through. um and so that, to me, that's kind of how I remind myself on a daily basis to allow the universal energy to flow through me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's the vital body. And then if we move up into the mental body, then this is where our thoughts and how our thoughts affect our emotions, how our thoughts affect our reality, right? And this is kind of like, it's something that is a little bit, I think, not a little bit, I think it's greatly misunderstood
Mm,
in the new age alternative medicine world, because I think that when people hear, things like The Secret, or, where it's like this idea of it's all in your head, right? So, like,
Mhm.
if I'm thinking something negative or positive, it's going to manifest like this.
Mm.
Or all I have to do is just go, you know, I, I don't know, I'm, let's say I'm trying to buy a house. I'm going to get this house. I'm going to get this house. I'm going to get this house. Like, all I have to do is do that. And then, of course, I'm going to get it because I've said it in my mind and my mind now believes it. So it's this, like, the mental body is this, like, very fine line of between the supramental body and the vital body,
Mhm.
because it's like, in an ocean, how you have, like, the different layers.
Mhm.
So you have the this is like a very thin layer of connection, because just because you said something in your brain doesn't make it true to your supramental body. Your archetypes aren't going to suddenly believe you, right? Your subconscious is not going to suddenly be like, "Oh yeah, I'm on board with that." Right? Like,
The house is mine. Right.
yes, or like, I'm gonna stop eating bread, right? I'm gonna quit smoking, or I'm gonna, whatever it is, like, just because you've said it doesn't mean that it's that your subconscious is on board, and it doesn't mean that your vital body is on board.
Right.
So this is where it's very tricky, and a lot of people will kind of see it as like, oh, so you're saying that I'm creating my world with my thoughts. So all I have to do is change my thoughts. Well, changing your thoughts is not as easy as just saying things that you think you want to think.
Right. Right. Yeah, right,
Right?
right,
Like,
right, right. And as a caveat, I will say that this is where intentions and affirmations can be particularly helpful and effective, because sometimes it is it's like one of those things, like they say it takes 20 days to create a new habit, you know? And so it's like, this is where, setting of intentions, bringing your focus back to the intention, um, having mantras, having affirmations that
but
you're
doing
using.
those things and being present with them and
Right.
paying attention to what's happening energetically within our vital body and in our subconscious and our supramental body.
Mhm.
Because just saying those things, it's like living with an abuser, and they're constantly like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. But what they're doing is, like, their physical actions are actually harming you.
Mhm.
So unless you make a physical, energetic, emotional, subconscious, divine change, just saying those things is not enough. I,
Right.
I think it's really important to get that point across, because it gets lost in, like, okay, if I just sit here and I say I love myself, I'm going to eventually love myself. Well, you might move forward and progress towards self love and self acceptance, but you're
Mhm.
not going to fully get to that unless you start the practice of self awareness, of the practice of self acceptance, the practice of learning where that love for yourself fell out, right? Like,
Right.
going through the work,
Right.
the
Yeah, and I
emotional
think that's
work.
I think that's the thing. That's what I hear you saying, is that it's like there is the doing the work component to to these kinds of transformations, to this kind of process, is that it's not just um it, like you said, it's not just like saying it and then all of a sudden it manifests.
Yeah.
I think I do think, though, one thing that, I know I've experienced with utilizing intentions and mantras is that it is this point where it, like, brings it back into focus. It brings it back
It
into
does.
awareness.
Yes.
And so and then what you can do when it comes back into focus is sometimes you might be able to connect it to the vital body. You might be able to connect
Mhm,
it to the super mental body.
mhm,
There might be times where you're saying it and it might not connect to either,
mm,
and that might be part of your process and part of your journey. And then at some point, you know, from all the other work and the awareness that you've gained, then there can be kind of like more of like a full integration between your vital body, your mental body, and your super mental body.
yeah.
Because like I love what you said earlier. It's like just because your mental body said, "Oh, I'm going to get that house," it doesn't mean that your archetypes are on board because they might be like, "Yeah, no, we don't want that house." you know? I think I lost you for a second. I don't know. You're
Connie! Oh
Oh,
my
there you
gosh.
are. There you
Okay,
are.
that was so weird.
It sounded like we were getting some alien transmission or something, and you were
Yes!
frozen. Hilarious. Rah, rah. Awesome. So yeah, so I think that it's like, and then it goes into kind of more subtle, like subtle and deeper connections with, how you're working with your awareness around, where those desires within your purpose and where they're connected, and you can work with them in a much more, I guess, robust way.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, you've mentioned it. I think it was last week when we did our episode. You mentioned your connection with your body where you can feel the
Hmm.
energy move, like you'll
Yeah.
feel it like all of a sudden like your shoulder or your hip, or right, like you feel it in the
Yeah.
physical. So that's what I'm hearing you say is when you're sharing out loud your intention, when you're reading your vision
Right.
state, when you're saying your mantra or your affirmation, really feeling it, right? Really
Yeah.
paying attention to where that's sitting and not just being in blah, 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 da, 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 da. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
this one lady
Yeah.
who would like, all day long, right? She was very into Abraham Hicks, which I
Hmm.
love Abraham Hicks. Like all day long, she would just go around saying all these great positive things out loud. She'd cook and say all the, oh, my life is so great. Da, 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 da. But nothing was changing,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
while it's great to be in that space, unless you're grounding it, it's probably not going to do much.
Right.
So,
Right. And so that's something that, I mean, it's a learning process. It's
yeah,
not something that, like, you're like,
yes,
"Oh, da da da, right there." So I think that that's where it's like most of the time paying attention to the physical plane is what gives us the, like, it almost gives us like the direction. It gives us the sign. It gives us the
hmm,
turn. It gives
yes,
us the, where we're going. And
yes,
then it's like going into layering on where that's connected to within the vital body, and
hmm,
then where that's connected to within the mental body, and then being able to connect it to the super mental body. um that's where it's like, okay, then you're really in fifth gear at that point.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the thing is you're in fifth gear with regard to that one aspect, that one topic, that one thing. It
yeah,
doesn't mean you're in fifth gear to everything. It's just that one thing.
hmm,
So, um,
yep. Good point.
yeah,
Yeah, really good point.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
so then if we go into working with the supramental body,
mhm,
so that's the subconscious, the archetypes, the
right,
collective consciousness, right? So being in relationship to your belief systems, being open to learning what you really believe, not just what you're
Mhm.
thinking,
Or what
but
you were
what,
taught.
yeah, yeah, and to go really deeply into that system, and that's kind of like, you know, you see the ant houses and you see little ants come, but like underneath they have this huge, crazy
Right,
structure.
right.
Going into that huge, crazy structure and
And
learning about
discovering, right? Discovering and
discover,
learning.
yeah, discovering this, that is where the majority of your work for manifestation success, that
Mhm.
is where the majority of the work can and should be.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's with your archetypes.
yeah, yeah, with your
With your
archetype,
with your archetypes and other people's archetypes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Not just your archetypes, but other people's as well.
mhm, yeah, and, yeah, so, I mean, I don't, is there anything else you wanna say about that, about the super mental? And
No, I think that we have covered the super mental in a lot of other videos, so
mhm,
I definitely would encourage folks to go back and, anything that we're kind of touching on that talks about archetypes will give folks like a more robust
yeah,
understanding of the super mental. Um, I think today we wanted to kind of talk about that
yeah,
process that we talked about as far as like and kind of point out things where there might be challenges or difficulties and how they're all connected and why it's so important to expand just beyond what's in the physical plane
mhm,
into these other areas and understanding, yourself, your purpose, your special talent, skills, and abilities. Because like I say to most folks, I'm like, you're here for a reason. We need those talent, skills, and abilities to be as fully expressed as you can allow them to be,
yeah,
and and support them to be,
yeah,
because you didn't come in with those skills for, just for
right,
some random reason.
right,
We as a whole, we as a collective
need you,
consciousness
yeah,
need you to show up in the best way that you possibly can.
yeah,
So
yes, 100%. So so yes, so then you have the bliss body. So the bliss body is another huge chunk of importance in terms of living out that purpose and living out your vision and your calling. And the connection there is part of what you can feel into when you're meditating, right?
mhm,
Like being able to listen to
right,
get that information, getting out of your own way, right? So, like, you do the work and then you step away and you
mhm,
allow God or your higher power to take
right,
over
right,
and clear the stuff out for you. So it's not like I got a bulldozer and I got to be like, the builder, and I got to be the cleaning service, and I got to be the concrete bringer, and I got to do everything, right? Like,
yeah. It's like it's getting off the hamster wheel. It's like it's there's an understanding the and this takes a certain amount of like sensitivity and awareness. It's like understanding like when is the
yeah,
time that you're laying the foundation?
mhm,
When is the time where it's like you step back and you let, source, spirit, universal energy kind of like do its thing with moving towards balance, and it does take an increased sensitivity and an
yeah,
increased self-awareness.
yes, yeah. Yeah, and when you do it together, when you say, "Okay, God, let's walk into this meeting together," or like, "You're in charge," or "I need some help," or "Hold my hand," or, you know, just being in communication. And I know for a lot of people, um, just this idea of a power greater than myself is a little challenging.
Mhm.
So to work with how can you meet that power, right? So for me, the easiest thing is in nature, right? To see that I have no control over a flower blooming or a tree growing or the rain or the fires or, anything that's happening in nature, I have no control over. And
Mhm.
so to really respect and be in awe of that power and then use that to connect to.
Right.
Right. So whatever it is that you want to call it, however you connect to it, that's your journey. Like for each person, that's their relationship, a very private one and a very important one.
Yeah. And one other thing that I will say with regard to the bliss body is, that's where your guides and your angels and, your spirit team and all those folks are. So and for some people it's more comfortable, to talk about it in those terms
Mhm.
versus talking about it in terms of like God or
One big power.
spirit or, source or however people call it.
Yeah.
And so I just want to mention that, because and really what it is it is like a daily connection, right? It's a daily connection,
Yeah.
with what works for you in terms of, um, a power greater than yourself.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Well, I guess I just want to let folks know that we have decided that we are going to shift our format a little bit, for this this fall, and we're gonna be doing lives on Mondays, at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and so hopefully over time, folks will join us for our lives and
Yeah.
have some questions and things like that. But I think we've just discovered that this live format works very well for us, and so hopefully at some point people will join us as well.
Yeah. I hope so. And we do have our September dates for our vision statement workshop. So check those out. And yeah, anything else?
I think that that's it for now.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. We'll be back next week.
Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.